Hello, I'm Chris. This is Reality Shadow Ban. Tech support's coming out for this on Tuesday. Said they're going to be able to close it, so waiting on that. Today we're going to be getting into the fun subject of marriage counseling. Uh, I found this lady. She's called Happy Wife School. Her. I've been married twice, and divorced twice. Happily divorced twice. And she's spot on with this, with her, and we're gonna get into it, and I'm gonna leave some comments. Here we go. By the way, fair use. Happy Wife School. Give her a like and subscribe, and yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get started. So today we are talking about, does marriage counseling work? And for me, it's a definitive no. And we're going to get into the why. A reminder. I always like to do this at the beginning of my live shows. A reminder that this video and all of my videos on my channel are not intended for couples in severely dysfunctional and abusive relationships. My message is for women and good men who have normal, common, everyday issues you would expect your neighbor to have behind closed doors. And if you are
This channel's mostly for men to understand what's really going on and why you're not warned about any of this stuff. Not that we're going to listen probably anyway, because the whole prevailing thought forms and everything in the psyops and the culture is like, no, you're going to get married and it's going to be great and it's going to solve all your problems and you'll be happy ever after. And for someone that's suffering and having a hard time, they're like, is this really the answer? And it's like, no.
listening to this video and you are a man or a woman in a physically abusive relationship or severely dysfunctional relationship, it is best that you work with a licensed or trained professional that specializes.
Okay, those are the exceptions. That we're talking about those. We're not talking about the ones that are, the real problems. We're talking about the common regular shit
In domestic abuse. So with that being said, why I want to talk about why marriage counseling doesn't work and who that message is for. This week I got an email. From a licensed marriage and family therapist that expressed her concerns to me because of a couple she is working with, who the man in the relationship, in the marriage, is watching my videos, and the wife asked the therapist to watch my videos, and she reached out to me again expressing her concerns. And so I thought it would be helpful to do a video for good men and women who are being, well, for good men who are being asked or being dragged to couples counseling by their wife, and look at 3 reasons why it doesn't work. And we're going to go further and further down the rabbit hole as we get into those 3 reasons. So please stick around for the whole episode. So I want to remind you guys that part of the
we won't do the whole episode, but you'll get enough to get a good taste of what's going on with this stuff.
title for the Happy Wife School is the red pill for women. And what I mean by that is for us as women, like I was in my marriage, to be exposed to the truth of our poor behaviors and emasculation of our husbands, meaning making them bad and wrong, shaming them and brainwashing them into believing they are the problem in the marriage.
You can still she's still having a hard time dealing with this. How wrong she was, and how she was totally screwing things up, and brought her situation back from the brink after realizing what she'd done. And most women just refuse to go do this. So kudos to her. And you can tell she in these shows, you can tell she's still struggling with thinking this opposite way and having to dredge it up and deal with it. But thank you, Karen, for doing this.
That the red pill is to awaken to the truth of our behaviors and how we show up so that we can have an awakening and we can change. And my channel is also for good men who are stuck in these patterns with their wife and have thought that they are crazy in what they experience. And my hope for all of you is that you are validated that you are not crazy and that what you're experiencing is real. And so I like the idea and of the red pill and red pill versus blue pill that comes from the movie The Matrix. And I have my own definition of the Matrix, which is an interwoven ideology that seems like reality, but is not actually based in truth. An interwoven ideology that seems like reality, but is not actually based in truth.
Psyops.
And from this perspective, and what I'm going to teach today, marriage counseling is part of the Matrix. Marriage counseling is part of the matrix of an interwoven ideology that seems true, but isn't actually based in truth. So today I want to talk about the truth, because truth breaks us out of our cognitive dissonance and breaks us out of the alternate reality that we live in when we buy into ideologies or we're brainwashed by ideologies that are not actually based on the truth of life. So let's get into the very first reason, just getting right in today. The first reason that marriage counseling does not work for good men and women in normal, everyday relationships facing the issues that I talk about. The first reason why it doesn't work is what I like to call the psychology of relationships. We need a different perspective on how relationships work, because what we have been taught in our culture, what marriage counseling reinforces, is not the truth of how relationships work. We have been indoctrinated into believing that marriage and relationships are 50-50, that each person needs to show up doing their 50% to make the other person happy or feel the way that person wants to feel in the relationship, and then the other person needs to do their 50%.
I believe this. When I was in my marriages, I definitely believed that this is how it worked. That if I would do my 50%, they would do their 50%, and I would feel whole. No, that's not how it works at all.
To make the other person feel good in the relationship and do what they need to do to get their needs met. And from my perspective and what I know and have lived in my marriage and what I work with other men and women on, is that 50-50 approach that marriage counseling enables, and is the whole perspective and basis of marriage counseling, is that is based on codependency.
Right. So Our culture, if it wasn't completely aware, you didn't figure it out by now. It's It's completely driven on codependency, and it has to be a hidden codependency. It has to feel like empowered, like it's empowering to have this trait. And it's the entire indoctrination cycle that we go through, called public education, and everything that happens after that. The entire society is set up for this codependency. And this is why people have mental illness. This is why, Freud was, square peg round hole guy. Like, hey, adjust to this. You'll be fine. Just adjust. It's like, no, this is how we're supposed to operate.
Need you to be X, Y, and Z for me to feel good in the relationship, and vice versa.
Let me go back on it.
Dependency. I need you to be X, Y, and Z for me to feel good in the relationship, and vice versa.
Right. So that's the game that the people who believe in marriage, the current way it's set up, believe that this is how it works. And that's why these things are doomed to fail. And the marriage rate is much higher than 50%. Look into how I'm going to do a video on how they calculate it. What a scam. What a scam.
Which keeps us very trapped, and is why marriage counseling doesn't work, because it is based on the other partner needing to change for the other person to feel good and safe and secure in the relationship. So I teach a different perspective, and this is what has radically changed, not only changed my marriage, but has radically changed every relationship that I have in my life without those people.
Okay, I can see that happening. I mean, it doesn't matter about marriage or not, but yeah, if you do change your perspective on this codependency thing and work through it somehow and get over it, okay, you're going to be in a better place. And yeah, all your right relationships are going to be better, because you're not expecting them people to do stuff that they don't want to do and wasn't going to do anyway. So all you're doing is making yourself miserable, thinking like it's for someone else to give someone else. I give 50%, the other person give 50%. No, that's not how it works, man.
Ever having changed, just me changing. So how
you have to give for people you believe in and care about. You have to give 100%, and they can feel, because they're human and they have feelings, and this the social construct doesn't override this. Is they can feel that you're only giving half, so they're only going to give half, and you wonder why things aren't working out.
Changed every relationship that I have.
This is the new social contract. I give half, you give my other half, and then you make me happy. That's this new stuff that's going along, like equity and all this stuff. This is what it is.
Perspective. And this is what has radically changed, not only changed my marriage, but has radically changed every relationship that I have in my life without those people ever having changed, just me changing. So how I define the psychology of relationships is that relationships are a reflection of our internal emotional state. Our relationships are a reflection of our internal emotional state, which creates the lens through which we see the relationship. And
right. So people don't realize this. It's hidden from us. This is not told, but our internal state dictates what we see. I know it's really hard. People think it's through my eyes, and it's what it is, and I assume it's that way, and that's how it is. No, our internal state, how we are inside, dictates what we see. I know this is hard. This is hard to believe. It seems like it's the other way, but this is the reality.
Are a reflection of our internal emotional state. Our relationships are a reflection of our internal emotional state, which creates the lens through which we see the relationship. And when we're talking about the dynamics between women and good men, as women, we all know that we live in an internal emotional storm.
Yeah, that's why I discovered being in marriages. Women have. I feel so sad for most women. They are just in this total storm of emotions, and when this magic word, "you are now married," it doesn't clear all that stuff up automatically, they're pissed. I get it. You've been lied to, and then they wanted to find someone to blame, and the only thing they can find, because they can't. It's not couldn't be them. Couldn't possibly be they're lied to, and they have a completely skewed perspective of what the world is and what they are. They got to find someone to blame. And who's the closest one? I wonder.
And an internal emotional storm inside of us. And that storm is created, from my perspective and what I teach and what I have lived, from our own.
Who can take the blame and get profits? And do you think that the people who haven't set this system up didn't do this on purpose? You better believe they did it on purpose. It wasn't by accident. It was on purpose. This has been fully disclosed. And the fact that everyone doesn't understand this yet, it means that you all think it's okay to this is happening. This is part of the religion of the people that run this thing. If they tell you everything, how it works, and you keep going along with it, well, that's on you, buddy.
Unhappiness of how we feel about ourselves internally. And that emotional storm, storm inside of us. And that storm is created, from my perspective and what I teach and what I have lived, from our own unhappiness of how we feel about ourselves internally. And that
how we've been programmed to feel bad about ourselves, and we're looking externally for any kind of validation, any kind of thing to let this go. This is how we've been programmed. This is all on purpose. This is all human stuff that the Bernays guys, Eddie Bernays and his ilk have been doing since your grandfather's days. And wondering why we're not happy.
Emotional storm creates the lens of which we see our marriage to our good man. Our internal emotional state as women of being unhappy is we don't feel enough. We are highly critical of ourselves. We beat ourselves up. We are constantly wearing a facade to the outside world of who we think we need to be liked, accepted, and validated for
All right, that's all the social conditioning from the public school bullshit,
who we are.
and the social and the society and the pop culture and the marketing teams. Yeah,
We worry constantly. And as women, we have a very strong sense that there is something wrong with us. We feel
yeah, there probably is. That's probably what's bubbling up. It's like, hey, yeah, you've been fucked with. You've been completely fucked with. And most of the things you think are the way things aren't the way they are. And you're in the waking up to this stuff is a very painful process. And I don't doubt. I don't. Yes, you're gonna be very angry. It's called the red pill rage. It's like waking up to seeing how you've been used. Yeah, you're gonna be really angry and you're gonna lash out. And you're gonna also guess what? They've also set things up. Say, hey, once you wake up to this stuff, there's a person to lash out to, and guess who it is? It's that guy you married.
because we watch ourselves do the same behaviors over and over again and we don't change. We have a deep experience of feeling wrong. And that being our internal emotional state, that creates the lens of which we see our husbands and which we see the marriage.
Right.
And so we project.
Right. So that's the preemptive suggestion that yes, it's your husband that's doing it. It's the men. It's the patriarchy. That's the suggestion. And then you fall for it. When you're in pain, you're looking for the first thing that can get you out of pain. And if it's like you've been told in the back of your mind that it's men that cause this problem, oh, let's get rid of him. Now you have the divorce industry, and you have a homeless population, and drug and problem, and single moms raising criminals that go repeat violence. Great, wonderful society you've set up. Nice. It does keep the elite in power, which is nice. Everyone's in chaos. Everyone's confused. Everyone doesn't know what the fuck's happening. Yeah, very great system to keep the power elite totally in control. Good job.
Internal emotional storm onto our husbands and believe that they are the problem of our unhappiness and how we feel about ourselves, and that there is something they need to do differently to make us happy, to make us feel good and be who we think we need them to be.
Right. That's the pre-programmed suggestion by Oprah and the freaking TV shows and all the stuff that preach to women. And most of their audience is women. They tell them this is the problem. And men aren't aware of this because we're not watching that stuff, right? So like me, like my mom, my first wife was totally addicted to Oprah and all the daytime shows. I was working. I had no idea what these people were talking about. It looked like it was fine, whatever. Little did I know I was being completely set up to be taken. And not only did I find this out later, I was like, this is what they were telling everybody? Holy shit. How did I survive as long as I did? Wow. She must have just wanted to see when I was going to peak and then fall over and then take out the peak. Man, it's brutal, man. These women, wow. Once they feel like they've been wronged, they want to get revenge. Ooh.
In order to be happy. And if we different husbands and believe that they are the problem of our unhappiness and how we feel about ourselves, and that there is something they need to do differently to make us happy, to make us feel good.
Right. So the marriage counseling I went to was for a brief moment. This is all it was about. Chris, change. Chris, do this. Chris, do that. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. I'm like, hey, wait. I was like, I'm completely unprepared for this attack, full onslaught. I'm like, whoa. I just want one thing. Could you give me, like, we have sex come back to this? No, like it was promised sex to have and hold and all that stuff. No. Okay. Sucker.
Who we think we need them to be in order to be happy. And a fundamental truth is that no one and no thing can make us happy. Happiness is an internal experience, which I define as a healthy relationship with ourselves, feeling good about who we are, being well adjusted, being able to have high emotional intelligence to see life for the reality of what it is.
Right. Not the foolish stuff that was promoted on the TV. I made a mistake. I did not know that how dangerous these things were for women's minds. I had no idea. Mistake. I don't get married, but if you're gonna do marriage, you have to get rid of all the social media and join some sort of commune where everyone's about having a healthy marriage and kids that are grown and doing well, and a wife that doesn't hate their husband.
And what marriage counseling does not take into account and is completely oblivious to is that the husband, and good men, you need to listen to this. This is a fundamental truth that can break you out of the brainwashing of your wife that you are the problem. Marriage counseling is oblivious to the fact that a man is not the source of his wife's unhappiness.
Right. And that's what the marriage counselors totally reinforced that I was the problem.
The man is not the source of his wife's unhappiness, and there is nothing.
my wife was miserable way before I found her. She was already like in the pits, and her whole family's the same way. I should have reconned the mom. I didn't know. Nobody told me recon the mom. You want to see what your future looks like? Look at the mother. What is her? And look at the father. Is the father still around? If they are, is he happy? Is he like bebop around like, yeah, everything's cool? Or is he like, whoa, whoa, there's you in the future.
Nothing he can do to make her happy, because it is an internal experience that we as individuals are responsible for. A good man's internal emotional state, and this is why good men can be so brainwashed by their wives to believe that they are the problem. A good man's internal emotional state is generally stable. Men are problem solvers. They easily see things pragmatically versus emotionally.
Yeah, I actually wanted to make my marriage work. I just wanted her to start doing the sex, which is the number one thing that goes away, by the way. If many didn't know this, sex is sex. You don't get married for sex. Get married, sex is over for you ever. So just know that that's the thing. Yeah, I didn't know that. No one told me. I thought it was a fluke. I thought I was doing something wrong. And eventually, okay, I figured out that, yeah, this is what's going on.
And that's why a man can be treated so poorly in his marriage by his wife. Yet his lens that he sees the relationship in marriage based on being a good man, based on that generally stable internal emotional state in the context of his marriage, is why he can see all the wonderful things about his wife and love her and want to stay and want things to work, because that's his nature and the internal emotional state that he lives in the marriage. Yeah. And a therapist, a couples counselor, is not trained to understand those two very different dynamics. And they're not trained to understand that the woman's unhappiness has nothing to do with her marriage, nothing to do with her husband.
I see. Until this lady actually told me this, I kind of knew this was kind of the case, that they had no idea. These marriage counselors, no idea what they're talking about. Zero. I got a female one. I don't think there only are female ones. I don't know if there is a male counselor. And they all completely ignorant of this, that happiness is internal. It comes from the inside. You cannot get it externally. Our culture is programming us with all the freaking evil fucking maniac scam artists that happiness is possible to get achieved from the outside if they just buy this one product, pill, service, or book. Is this not coming together? No?
And is biased for the woman to see the man as the problem, which is where we are going next. So in the psychology of relationships...
Okay, I'm not going to steal the wrong content. You can go listen to the rest of her talk. It goes on for 30 minutes. It's basically about the same stuff. The man, if you go to marriage counseling, you are going to be the problem. You have to fix, and you will end up in a much worse position than if you've never heard of marriage counseling to begin with. And that is what I want to say about that.